It's cool.
Green flag. Go, 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 go.
Tight fit.
Yeah, mate, copy that. Okay, mate, push all the way, please. Push, push, push. Good job there, mate. Nice and good season, mate. Nice and good season. Get ready to go. Pit lane is clear. Get ready to go.
All right, boys. Back. Fire it up.
"107 days since a supercar has rolled out onto a racetrack.
And while we've done plenty of virtual miles,
There is nothing quite like the real thing."
He's on the inside. Here comes Shane Van Gisbergen. Fabian Coulthard is the winner of race number 17. Jamie Whincup enters the record book as the greatest winner of all time in supercars.
yeah,
Finally, we get to race for real.
for real.
For real.
Welcome to Sydney Motorsport Park and the BP Ultimate Sydney Super Sprint.
It's a fantastic racetrack, Croppo, and we've seen so much over the years between those two men, whether it's been e-racing or it's real, they're off the front row. Waters and Mostert, they've got history, even when they were teammates.
Yeah, that's right, let alone painted in different colours. So next positions 5 and 6, Whincup and Percat, followed by Lee Holdsworth and Scott Pye. We've seen speed progressively getting quicker through the day here, and I'm going to be curious to see how the track pace unfolds this afternoon. Further down the order there was Steve Pasquale. Bryce Forward did a nice job to end up being 11th. Todd Hazelwood alongside him. Mark Winterbottom and Macaulay Jones. That was a fine qualifying performance by Macaulay, so the Irwin and Cool Drive cars alongside each other. Castrol Racing and Ned Racing, Rick Kelly and Andre Heimgartner, teammates side by side. Jack LeBrock for Super Cheap Auto. He's got a new engineer with him this weekend. And David Reynolds for Penrite Racing. Local legends Alex Davison alongside Gary Jacobson in the yellow cover entry. We spoke with Matt Stone earlier in the day. James Courtney had a difficult run, didn't get his lap together in time alongside Chris Pither for Team Sydney, then Jack Smith for SCT Logistics and Jake Kostecki for Unit Racing and Matt Stone Racing. It's 32 laps. Gorgeous conditions really for great pace and great racing. It's 106 days that engines that were being warmed up were forced to shut down, and we vacated the Australian Grand Prix precinct. Listen to that, the sweet sound of a supercar symphony. We are back on track at Sydney Motorsport Park, and a great jump initially by Van Gisbergen. McLaughlin recovers it. Somebody stalled in the background. The yellow flags are out, but McLaughlin's going to hang on by a car length through the apex of turn 1. It's McLaughlin, followed by Van Gisbergen. He's got his teammate tucked right in behind. Mostert's in there now. Watch for the congestion into 1.
Very tough to get in there, Crombo, isn't it? Without that little bump we just saw a second ago. That's Percat and Mostert. Whincup's been able to get by. So when you see this run down into turn 4, you always hold your breath, because he's been able to get round there. Can he hold the left-hand side and have the inside run for 5? Yes, he does. Great car control. So Nick Percat got down the inside, but was not able to hold that spot as McLaughlin gets a 3 or 4 car length break on Van Gisbergen.
Todd Hazelwood was very wide down there at turn 5. The start was weird, because initially McLaughlin didn't look comfortable at all. Van Gisbergen got the jump, and then there was a recovery by Scott and a slump by Shane, and it resolved with this gap that you can now see. And he's actually got a hefty gap. It's a second now, McLaughlin over Van Gisbergen. The car that was stalled in the background was Jack LeBrock, the Super Cheap Auto Ford Mustang from Tickford. So they've successfully negotiated the hairpin now without too much trauma. The teammates are side by side at the moment, Rick Kelly and Andre Heimgartner for Castrol and Ned. 1.4 seconds McLaughlin over Van Gisbergen. Now I wonder whether it's good policy to eat into the tyres that quickly for McLaughlin. And Van Gisbergen is not running with him initially. Then it's Whincup, then Mostert, then Percat, then Waters, Coulthard, Di Pasquale, Holdsworth and Pye. That's your 10. That's an extraordinary margin, 1.8 seconds, Mark.
Well, your point, and I think that's the big one, are you going too hard too early? Or are they on the game of stopping early? Do they care about it? So that's the strategy point that we're not really quite sure of yet. We'll see how that unfolds. But Mostert is hard into the back of Whincup here. This is a great shot. Cars move around so much through turn 4. He compromised the turn in for turn 5. A little bit of understeer as he turned at the apex. Didn't use too much of the exit. Remember, plenty of guys had drama there in the Armour All top 15 shootout. But this mid-pack here looks really congested.
So Mostert's looking racy at the moment. The yellow Dunlop Super Dealers car is Nick Percat. He's sitting in 5th. They're line astern into the braking area for the hairpin at the right-hander at turn 8. Hazelwood has recovered. He's just in front of Forward. They're 11th and 12th at the moment. So 2.2 seconds. So McLaughlin's continuing to sprint away over Van Gisbergen, and his standing lap there was a 35.2, plays a 36.8 for Shane Van Gisbergen. That's a huge difference. Well, check out the replays because I queried this before. So focus on McLaughlin. His initial bobble didn't look great, and I thought Shane had got him, but then it kind of reversed, and then in the background we had the problems with Jack LeBrock. That angle doesn't tell you the whole story, but what it does reveal is how well McLaughlin was able to get in on the ideal line. And for Van Gisbergen, being high and wide down there at turn 1 on that dirty, cold side of the road is a difficult proposition, but Jamie didn't attack him too hard. They actually did a great job of all negotiating turn 2.
There you go, that's what you were just saying, wasn't it? It was really weird, wasn't it?
It was really weird. Yeah, so Shane got a nice initial flinch, and then it bogged down almost to the point where he was really in strife.
Then he had to come out of the throttle there. This is down the back. This is Courtney. He's going to be able to sneak by. There's Jack LeBrock. Nice job, James Courtney, to be able to avoid that parked car. But that's the sort of congestion that normally goes on. Now, if Shane was caught wide, he had to come out of the throttle at turn 1, and that's why he was able to capitalise in terms of Scott McLaughlin's car position. But have a look at that gap now, 2.8 seconds.
James Courtney managing to get around Jack LeBrock at that start. That was as close as you would want to get to turning 2 Mustangs into 1, because that was seriously close.
And he went on with it because he actually gained 4 spots in that opening stanza. So Courtney's come from the back of the field to be 17th. So nice job there. So the reason that Neil and I are so animated about this gap is that we know from a car perspective through practice and qualifying that there has been very little between McLaughlin, Van Gisbergen and Whincup. But to have that level of gap already, almost 3 seconds, clearly McLaughlin is charging. He's going hard on these tyres. The tyres will not live if you continue to torture them the way he is. So there's going to have to be a trade-off. Does he stop early so he doesn't care about the tyre quality now? Or does he actually park himself into a lap time which tries to make it more consistent later? Lucko?
And Scaife, you're trying to get a read on what people are going to do. Everyone's holding their cards very close to their chest today for understandable reasons. But I'm just looking at Scott McLaughlin's garage now. There's no sense of urgency that's going to happen anytime really soon. If I could take a best guess, I'd say 10 to 12. You know, you get far enough into the race to burn up those tyres, but that you can survive another 20-odd laps and manage your way out of that. And it's all about the undercut. You want to be the first one in and get out. Otherwise, you're going to be undercut. And this is a cracking opportunity for that.
So the interesting thing is that their times have now equalised. So last lap for McLaughlin was a 31.6. For Van Gisbergen, it was also a 31.6. Whincup was a 31.8. We're watching him from Chad's viewpoint. Chaz might have a dive. He got closer. He's right with him now at 2, and right at the point of giving it a tickle, which he just did. And then it was also a 31.6 for Mostert.
A tickle.
Just letting him know there. I'm sure he's well and truly aware of it. So there are 3 of the top 4 drivers that did a 31.6 on their last lap. So it might be cold starting pressures, you know, just variance across the 2 teams, or the way they chose to drive the cars. But what it's done, even though their speed's pretty much equal now, it's given McLaughlin a 3-second buffer over Van Gisbergen in these first several laps.
Yeah, so the other thing that we haven't properly considered here is that Shane might be driving to a number. So he might have just decided to say, I'm going to be conservative. I'm not going to go with Scott. You go and do your own thing. Let's work this out later on. So that number that you reported on the previous lap of everybody doing pretty much the same time, that might be the Van Gisbergen strategy for tyre longevity.
which makes sense.
Yep.
And again, that's been done previously in just trying to manage tyres. So we're looking at car number 19 on screen here at the moment. Alex Davison, local legends entry, sitting in 19th position in car 19. We've got Gary Jacobson just tucked in behind him. And then in turn, it's Chris Pither in the Coca-Cola entry. Last lap speed again, 31.6 for McLaughlin, 31.8 for Van Gisbergen. The margin sits 2.9 seconds. This little battle here involves Davison, Jacobson, Pither and Kostecki there in the unit entry car number 34. These guys are already 14 seconds off the lead. So what happens because of congestion and starting further back when the lights change, you lose a big chunk of time in the early phase of the race to the leaders, and remarkable given how few laps that we've contested so far, and given that the relative speed between the cars is pretty close from one end of the field to the other, that you end up with those margins. Scott Pye was quite significantly wide of the yellow line down there that time. They get a little bit of leniency from Motorsport Australia race control on that.
I'm interested, Neil, why Mostert, if he's going to have a dive, he probably needs to get on with it, because when you're parked in the aero wake of the car in front, it will hurt the tyre quality for Mostert if he parks in behind there for that long. Dunlop curb cam. The exit of turn 8. Cars are battling from a wheel spin perspective, battling to come out of there with 650 horsepower and try to not hurt the tyre as you come out in second gear is quite a task, Larko.
Really quickly, I'm going to try and keep one eye on the monitor, but let's have a look at this new pit stop rule before we get to our first round of pit stops. Now, the number one thing you need to know, 1, 2, 3, 4 rattle guns. Well, now 1, 2 of those are gone. You can't have them anymore. So when I bring my car in, I can have 6 people across the line. Car controller, air spike man, there he is. Fuel and fire, well, they're gone. And tireman, 4 of them. But what's going to change now, you're going to see 2 of these guys or girls go to the back. They're going to assist at one end of the car, and then they're going to come to the other end of the car. Might do that the other way around. You might do 2. 5 seconds for 2, closer to 10 seconds for 4 tyres when you're doing it that way. That's the real cool bit about strategy today.
Yeah, great explanation. Thanks for the update, Mark Larkham in the Hino hub. And that is something of a game changer. We've done it before, but a couple of people have been eliminated from the process, and so there's theatrics in managing that, and even watching some of the practice, there's great variation in the timing. Best numbers that we've seen is in those low 4s and low 8s, but more typically when everything's hot and congested and busy down there, you add a little bit of time to that typically. And remembering that the 4.5 kilos for the rattle gun, 20 odd kilos for a wheel and tyre. So there's an assistant to help that inbound and outbound process, and then there's the operator actually on the rattle gun managing it as well. And it's a real art form, and it's practiced and refined. The biomechanics of it all are analysed. Teams do midweek practice. They've got booms set up and cars set up and practice rigs. They've got cameras. They look at it and study it for good reason, in great detail, because buying a 1/10 of a second on the racetrack costs a lot of time and money. You can find a 1/10 of a second in the pit lane relatively easy if you've got your act together. This is Todd Hazelwood sitting in 11th position at the moment. Brute military grade livery on that car that was debuted in the recent E-Series by Todd Hazelwood and Brad Jones Racing, and he's tucked in behind Scott Pye at the moment. He's in the DeWalt entry. It's the yellow and black Holden Commodore. This is Anton Di Pasquale sitting in 8th position at the moment, tucked in behind Fabian Coulthard and just in front of Lee Holdsworth. Lee's in the truck assist Mustang. So now that margin's out to 3.5 seconds. Best lap of the race so far, 30.8 for McLaughlin, 1 minute 30.8. And the next closest after that, I think, is actually the driver that's sitting in 2nd spot at the moment, which is Van Gisbergen.
So 6/10.
Yeah, it's a big number.
Yeah, 30.8 plays 31.47. So there's the numbers. Actually, LeBrock, because he was parked right at the back, he pressed on pretty hard. So that's not really in sync with the rest of the field. So Jack is down in 23rd, but he did a 30.9. So he obviously used those tyres up very hard.
Margin's 3 seconds between McLaughlin and Van Gisbergen, so it's sat still now in the recent past Bunny Straight power pass. So this is what I was just talking about. Here's the lock-up right front. and that just slowed him up. And then he ran wide right in the mid-corner, and that gave the incentive to Anton. So he starts to get at him here, and then he's able to do that little run in that short shoot that you and I have spoken about, where if you're just in the right place at the right time, give it a squirt in second gear and fire down the inside. It's effectively elbows out, block pass down the inside, and it does work. So well done for Anton.
Yeah, so the slightest mistake, you pay a penalty. Now, on the previous lap, Van Gisbergen was the fastest car. So the number we've been talking about got out to 3.5 seconds. It's now 3.1. And when you start to consider what's going to unfold, you've got to try to organise yourself as to what that peters out to be. What's the game plan now? Does Shane start to try to run the car a little harder leading into the stops?
So first sector for Shane was his best on that last lap. 32.1 last lap for McLaughlin, 31.9 for Van Gisbergen. So has Scotty just hurt those tyres a little bit, or did he have a small error? Only takes a tiny little change of rhythm to drop a 10th or two. And bad sportsmanship flag for Jack Smith, using too much of that exit at turn 5 from Motorsport Australia Race Control. And it's come up on our timing monitor.
It's a pretty good battle here, Crompo, because Fabian looks like he's in a little bit of trouble. Scott Pye and Hazelwood right in there behind. Remember, we saw Anton make that manoeuvre a lap ago. Bryce Forward parked in there. David Reynolds under pressure from Rick Kelly. Rick Kelly and Heimgartner as teammates, currently 14th and 15th. Mark Winterbottom is tucked in behind Heimgartner, so there's a lot of experience in that middle part of the field, and they'll be trying very hard to read the play as to how hard they're using the tyre and just trying to make sure that they don't energise too much wheel spin, especially on the way out of those left-handers.
Big train of cars.
Yeah.
I think Fabian's got a balance issue going with this car. He's just got his hands full at the moment, and what was apparent from those onboard shots is that Hazelwood's actually got a bit of pace at the moment, but he's finding it difficult to apply it. So there's a queue beginning to form here. Hazelwood just pulls out into some fresh air just to give the water and brake temps a breather, and then drops back in. He's got Bryce Forward tucked in behind him. Last lap speed, check, 32.4 for McLaughlin, 32.1 for Van Gisbergen, 32.5 for Whincup. So Shane is starting to pull that margin down. He's got it down to 2.6 seconds now as Hazelwood continues to work away on the back of Scott Pye. There's the plus or minus gains between McLaughlin and Van Gisbergen for the last 4 laps. Back on board here with Todd. So this is turn 4, third gear. So you can see he's actually got enough grip and enough pace at the moment to be able to put the car where he wants, but it isn't that easy. Not really a passing spot down here, and Scott Pye is having to now run a defensive line in there, which makes his corner exit speed a bit slower. But is he going to be able to get up far enough? It's not an easy thing to pull off here at turn 7 at Corporate Hill. You've got to be completely alongside to make that move stick, or you end up in the other driver's door. So for Scott Pye, it's a real handful at the moment because he's dealing with Fabian just in front, and he's got Todd jam behind. Dunlop curb camp's pretty cool image, isn't it?
So one of the interesting things is I don't know how much damage to that right-hand front into turn 8 for Fabian, which probably has an impact around a lot of the fast left-hand corners. So Hazelwood decides to get out of that train. So does Davey Reynolds. I think I saw Rick Kelly doing the same thing. I think that's clever.
Now he'll get, that is Todd, will get the benefit of an undercut here. Now do they do 2 or 4? Is the interesting question for Dunlop tyres. 21 laps remaining. It's still a fair chunk, so it's double what they've just achieved effectively. So it's a big ask for this next set of tyres. Frosty, Mark Winterbottom. So they've only done right side, loaded side on the Irwin Racing entry.
Really, it's tyre usage for the weekend that we're thinking about here now. Same for Courtney by the look. Is that right side? Right side only for Courtney too.
Yeah.
So 4 cars, Hazelwood, Reynolds, Winterbottom, Courtney. It wasn't Rick Kelly. The Mustang that I saw was the Boost Mobile car 44 of James Courtney. I didn't see David Reynolds. Did you see how many tyres he put on? I didn't catch that in the back of shot. And here we go. The congestion continues, Croppo.
4 cars came in, then Reynolds, Winterbottom, Hazelwood and Courtney. We're picking up Bryce Fullwood for Mobile One and Middy's Electrical. And he is now the next in the queue, sitting in behind Scott Pye. Scott, in turn, is staring at the part number on the rear wing, Fabian Coulthard's car. Now, what will be interesting is to see whether or not, after these guys make their stop, whether Todd Hazelwood actually jumps this queue. Cam Waters has actually just come in the monster car as well. Meantime, lap speed check, 32.8. McLaughlin, 32.4 for Van Gisbergen. 2 seconds is the gap, so a second of that margin has now been whittled away.
And I think you find, Neil, that has been the case. The Van Gisbergen driving the car to a lap time looks very much like the strategy from Red Bull Holden Racing Team. Grant McPherson, oh, a little stall there for Cam. That'll be a big penalty when the other stops are made. So he's got a front end drama on Alex Davison's local legends Commodore. Team Sydney entry.
Down the inside comes Scott Pye on Fabian. I caught the last bit of a remark from Fabian. He said something's not right, and that's evident out there at the moment. And he's got big pressure now from Bryce Fullwood. So Scott Pye clears him and moves up into 8th position. And Fabian quite wisely just runs it down the inside there to protect the line. And you've got the 2 teammates, Heimgartner and Rick Kelly, line astern there through the hairpin at 8. So this is a bit more of the story about whatever's happened to Alex Davison. One of the areas where you can knock the car around here is actually up at turn 10 on that curb. So it's not impossible to do some damage to front suspension up there. If you hook the curb at just the wrong angle, it can bruise the car. Rick Kelly in the Castrol Racing Ford Mustang, staring at the back of Bryce Fullwood's car.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Scafey, Davey Reynolds, similar thing. He was going to hang out there a long time. Actually, I want to grab this pit stop when it comes in, but Davey Reynolds wanted to hang out there because, again, the hope of a safety car late. If you've got fresh rubber on then, you are home and hosed. Hey, can I just indulge for a moment so you can see one of the Red Bull cars come along? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 men over the line. That used to be 8. Only 2 rattle guns. So we can see here, guys at each end of the car. This is going to be interesting to watch. And stopping on the mark is going to be more important than ever, because when you've got congested people at a tyre, so look at this. Rear left, front right, off. That's about 5 seconds. Look at it, straight to the other end of the car. That's interesting, isn't it? They've done it opposite, diagonally that way. Very good, down and away you go. Nice stop. You can see the practice that's going on there, can't you? Well done.
Yeah, thanks for that. And we've got Fabian in now as well at Shell V-Power Racing next door. So I watched Penwright do that yesterday, that diagonal stop. But all 4 tyres have been changed on Jamie's car. So just make that point. It's an interesting one. And Waters has actually jumped him in the process there. But Jamie's going to come back pretty strong with 4 tyres on that thing for sure. Battle at the front. The gap has completely now evaporated. So driving to the number would appear to have served Van Gisbergen well. Check out the margins he's made in the recent past. So the last 4 laps, he's had all that margin whittled away, and so they've given the game away now at Shell V-Power Racing. Straight in for another set of boots. Lap 15, didn't quite make it.
So what do they do? Do they do 4? I would have thought so, huh?
I would be, yeah, if you're saying is live for the now.
Yeah. Live for the now.
Live for the now. Chuck the rubber on it. I'll worry about tomorrow.
There you go, 4 tyres. Well done. Good communication. Have a listen to this stuff.
Front left was a little slow. The first yank of that, it didn't actually come off. So there might have been a tiny little bit of time lost in that one. So now we'll see Is Shane going to react and come in to protect the undercut, or are they going to try and run a bit longer? That means that he would have to try and round him up in this final phase of the race. Now, a good gain here by Cam Waters strategically, so roughly half the field stopped. McLaughlin is the first driver, 13th at the moment, that stopped, and next behind him is Waters, followed by Whincup.
Now, I know a lot of the team principals aren't here, but I'll bet you Roland's texting the guys in that garage, because with that mistake, that's about a 2-second mistake, that stop. I'd be stopping Van Gisbergen right now, because that way, if you do a good stop, you'll pop out in front.
He's pressing on.
Yeah.
So let's see what the lap speed looks like. 32.9 on the last lap for Van Gisbergen.
It's going to eat into the gap for the undercut.
But what was evident in that last run was the consistency of Shane, and we saw it over that 4-lap block. Here's the BP Ultimate replay. What's going on here with Shane? He's fiddling around with his boot or the seat or something. They're not in 6th gear, in top gear for very long with the way the gearing is on the cars in the modern era. Now Mostert, Percat, Di Pasquale have come in for their stop. That's our race leader. There's Anton. Mostert. They're doing 4. Now, did Percat just grab him? Yes.
Yep.
And Percat's in behind Di Pasquale.
So
there goes Whincup and Waters. What was the matter?
What happened there? Because Di Pasquale and Percat, so did they grab 2 tyres instead? Did they jump them based on that? Because he was in front, so Mostert was basically in line of stern with Whincup, remember?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference there between those. We just need to follow that for you as to how that position has been changed in the stop. Yeah.
So there's 7 cars now to take their compulsory stop. Van Gisbergen, Pye, Forward, Jones, Pithas, Smith, Kostecki. First in the group that has stopped is McLaughlin over Waters, over Whincup.
Yeah.
And the fastest car out there now is Fabian Coulthard. He's done the best lap of the race so far, a 30.8. Right?
So Anton Di Pasquale was a 5-second stop, so only 2 tyres for Anton and 2 tyres for Waters. So that's why they're out of order effectively. Now, can Anton hang in based on car pace? That's the interesting one. So Mostert with 4 tyres. Remember, Hazelwood there, he stopped very early, so he's got the benefit of an undercut, but now that Mostert's got fresh tyres on, he should be able to get down the inside, probably in a spot like that. Yep, nicely done.
Now here's an interesting thing that's just jumped up on our timing. Bad sportsmanship flag for Whincup exceeding track limits. So that'll either be at turns 5 or 8 as we pick up on Bryce Fullwood. 4 tyres in the Walkinshaw Andretti United entry.
I'm tipping that's turn 5, Crompo. I've seen Jamie out there a fair bit. He's been running out there a lot. Oh, off the road. So, I thought that was going to be contact when he was trying to rejoin there, Reynolds. Now, did he get a bump prior? I don't know. He just got a bump then as he was trying to get the car back across the front of Hazelwood at turn 3. But I thought there was going to be contact in the middle of turn 2. Now, here comes Van Gisbergen.
So of the lead cars, he's got the fewest number of laps to deal with. He's got 15 to run to get to the checkered flag. Larko?
Pit lane's about to come alive again. Just in this diagonal thing. What I'm thinking, and because I'm not going to ask the guys, they're not going to tell me now, but because the guy with the gun is on the right-hand side, the guy that's holding the tyre runs to his left, and it happens on opposing sides of the cars. So he's out of the way to grab the next tyre. Watch this. Right front, left rear. On the line, bang, beautiful. Okay, tyre goes on, he runs to his left, same at the front. I'm guessing that might be what it's about. A little slow on the left front there, gets away nice.
That was the same time as Scott's.
It's a great study of time and motion, isn't it? Now Mostert's going quickly out there at the moment. So, big evidence of the undercut there for McLaughlin. And in fact, Van Gisbergen's going to have a fair bit of work to do there behind Lee Holdsworth.
Look at at those numbers, as you can see there, the last 4 laps. But what Shane's got to do is you've got to have a little bit of patience when you do it, because what you've got to try to foresee is by the time you actually get yourself to McLaughlin, you have to have good enough tyre quality to actually make a pass. There's no use using the tyre up so significantly that when you get to McLaughlin, you've got nothing to play with. You haven't got enough rubber or grip to be able to make that move. So it's a real game now where you've just got to sneak up to him almost at the slowest rate, but give yourself enough time at the end of the race to put the move on. It's a high-speed chess game, this one, Croppo, sometimes, isn't it? This is what it's going to turn out like.
Yeah. And they're all driving absolutely max attack. It's full qualifying laps with every passing lap at the moment. This is the battle involving Lee Holdsworth in position 6, Anton De Pasquale in position 7. Nick Percat's just a couple more car lengths behind those guys. .1 seconds is the gap. First to second, 8 laps remain. So Waters has got a bit of fresh air around him at the moment. He's sitting in 5th. That'll also give him a bit of a boost points-wise. And Gary Jacobson in combat here with Bryce Fullwood. And Bryce gets it down the inside at turn 4 pretty nicely.
So, Neil, the biggest mover and shaker of the field is actually James Courtney. He's up 9 spots, so that's a really good drive. Jacobson up 5.
Now, Lee Holdsworth's going to get the bad sportsmanship flag as well, confirmed on the screen. Lee sitting in 6th at the moment. That'll partly be because he's involved in a pretty engaging battle at the moment, and he's got pressure on him. So when that kind of pressure is on, you're trying to use everything you got to defend yourself. We've got now 7 laps remain. The margin is 1.8 seconds between McLaughlin and Van Gisbergen. That's a familiar story. The 2 fast Kiwis. And it's a great incentive for Shane at the moment. He's got a slightly younger tyre on the car, because when you sense the preceding car getting closer to you with every lap, it builds your confidence. And he'll be getting a nice confidence hit out of that at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Neil. You get a really good gauge, and you tend to see, when you're following like that, you can see the areas where you've got a little benefit and a little bit of an upside versus the driver in front, and what the body language of the car in front is. So Shane will be using this intel on the way to the back of the Mustang to be able to say, right, I know that my car's better in these 2 or 3 zones, start to set his mind on the right spot. He's been very diligent here. He hasn't tried to make this gap up in 2 or 3 or 4 laps. He's just creeping away. Remember, we've got 7 laps remaining. It's 1.5 seconds. So he's basically got 0.2 of a second a lap to get to the back of that car. He's got to make about 0.3 of a second a lap to give himself some time leeway, 2 or 3 laps at the end of this race, to be able to make a move. So sneaking it up there a little bit, and then by the time he actually gets there, be able to pounce.
6 laps remain. It's 1.37 seconds between McLaughlin and Van Gisbergen as car number 99, Anton De Pasquale, gets the bad sportsmanship flag in 7th position for exceeding the track limits. And the other thing that you've got to keep a very close eye on in these battles is when you do have that little bit of extra confidence and incentive, and you do feel the margin coming down, that you just don't have a slightly overexcited moment, because it takes one little brake lock, one little slip to come out of the groove, come off the race line, put a little mark on a tyre. So it's also just as difficult for the chaser. One of the interesting things that Shane said to me several times about the E-Series contest for him was that though the graphics were extraordinary and the sim in the game was amazing, what he really liked about it was it made him focus. It made him focus on his driving and micromanaging every thought, every movement. And clearly he does it very, very well. So he's got it all happening at the moment. He's got 1.1 seconds to find in order to be able to get to Scott McLaughlin for what's going to set up a nail-biting finish for the resumption of play for Supercars at Sydney Motorsport Park. Hope you're enjoying the BP Ultimate Sydney Super Sprint. That's the story on screen. McLaughlin over Van Gisbergen. 2 supremely quick Kiwis, 2 different teams, 2 different marks, different tyre strategies, and it's playing out brilliantly at the back end of this race. Control line, 5 to go. Margin, 0.76, 3/4 of a second. There's the gain that's been made. Percat down the inside of Anton De Pasquale. And they're coming out of the final corner. They only barely gave each other enough room there. And Nick makes it 1 spot up to 7th. Anton's hanging on and hanging on. It's awkward out there. You can see all that rubber debris and dirt on the outside line. Eventually tucks it back down. You can be careful with a hot tyre somewhere in the 80, 90 degree or more realm, depending on which bit of the tyre you're looking at, that doesn't pick up a chunk of that cold rubber, and we call it pickup, and all of a sudden you get this awful, unstable feeling in the tyre. That can happen with all that build-up on the outside down there at 1. Look at that margin. It's half a second officially on the computer. The numbers no longer matter because both have well and truly got an eye full of each other at the moment. 5 laps remaining on the current estimate. You'd say that Van Gisbergen's going to well and truly get there. Now he has to get round him. Now remember what happened here in that little battle between 3 and 4 previously.
Well, it wasn't just that. Remember, he gave him a bump down at turn 6. Then he gave him a bump over the top at Corporate Hill. And then he finally got by with a really well-executed pass down into turn 4. So he had to set him up. And the construction of the pass is so important. What Shane has been able to do already is get to him without hurting the tyre too badly. He's just got to work this out as to where the benefit is. Where's the spot? Because it's one thing to catch Scott McLaughlin. It's certainly another to be able to put a move on.
A little less than 12 kilometres of racing to come. The two of them are locked together. Van Gisbergen's on a tow rope. And it's down the inside here where we've seen cool moves made previously. He had a little bit of a look, tucks it back in once more. It's officially 0.19 of a second. And he's eating the dirty air of the preceding car. Up come the temperatures. Hurts the front tyre, temps a little bit as well. .3,900 odd metres of racetrack at Sydney Motorsport Park for a brilliant resumption of play in the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. 1 to go, 0.37 is the margin. We're riding with Shane Van Gisbergen. Tick off 1, that's 11 to go. So sorry, Mark.
This is it. He's got to be able to get off here, Croppo, stay left to be able to go right. That's what he's trying to do. Make the late apex, see if he can come off here with a little run to get down the inside. It's his favourite spot. Can he get that? No, he can't do it. He set it up perfectly, but couldn't come off turn 3 well enough.
He put a big effort into it mentally. He had the car beautifully positioned, Van Gisbergen, but he couldn't quite get there. They both have to respect track limits on the exit of turn 5. It's not done yet. He's right on the back of him now, Van Gisbergen. What a scorcher of a race. The two of them slide off there in second gear through turn 6. One more time through Corporate Hill. McLaughlin grabs a bit of brake to steady it down in the mid-corner. He slid it out of there last time. He's got to be very gentle around here because if he forces himself into a mistake, he will get snipped. They are locked in combat. McLaughlin protects the track limits on the exit. He might be able to hang on. He's got 2 more corners to negotiate, and 10 and 11. McLaughlin is just holding on by his fingernails. He turns it down low. Van Gisbergen tries to work a better exit. There will be nothing in it at the line. Shane's got a slightly better exit. What a fantastic race. We are going to the flag with McLaughlin winning over Shane Van Gisbergen in a brilliant supercar return.
Nice work. Collect, advertise.
That was exceptional. And they have done a tremendous job as we resume play in the Supercars Championship. What a way to do it, Croppo. That was an unbelievable race.
Tremendous concentration and effort on the part of both those drivers. Jamie Whincup in 3rd spot. Chaz Mostert, nice work in 4th. Nick Percat will be happy with that in 5th. Waters, Holdsworth, De Pasquale, Winterbottom, and Fabian Coulthard, who recovered nicely from what looked like a bit of a difficult opening run for him in the first portion of that. Hazelwood, Courtney, Fullwood. James Courtney, well done considering where he qualified. He recovered very nicely.
What a way to resume. The 2 top teams, a couple of the very best drivers, absolutely duked it out. Tremendous battle. It was absolutely beautifully driven by both of them.